IVM.
Hello, we're Team Splainer. Welcome to an all-new episode of Press Decode, a weekly podcast where we take Splainer's mission to declutter the news one step further. Check out our newsletter for more stories. We've got a 1-month free trial for you in the show notes, so take us for a free spin. But for now, just sit back, relax, and don't let the news give you the blues. I'm Vagda, your host for the day, and today we have a full house with both Sara and Prafula. As always, we have 3 segments for you. In our big story, we're looking at the controversy around former BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma's anti-Islamic comments on a TV debate and the diplomatic row that followed. For the Food for Thought segment, we're talking about the global right to repair movement related to the electronics industry. And then in our final segment, we'll be roasting and toasting our fave and least fave items. So let's start with our big story. On May 27th, Nupur Sharma, who was a BJP spokesperson then, made some hateful comments about Prophet Muhammad and Islam while speaking on a debate on the Times Now TV channel. Mohammad Zubair of Alt News shared a clip of hers from the debate and soon it went viral, sparking widespread outrage. Nupur Sharma accused Zubair of creating a false narrative, and FIRs were filed against both Zubair and Sharma. Against Sharma by a Mumbai-based Muslim outfit for her anti-Islamic comments, and against Zubair for insulting Hindu religious leaders, calling Yati Narsinganand Saraswati, Mahant Bajrang Muni, and Anand Swarup hate mongers in a tweet. So anyway, that apart, after the video went viral, it caught the attention of many Middle Eastern countries who then condemned the comments and expressed concern about the growing extremism and hatred in India as the comments came from an official spokesperson of the ruling party in India. And then suddenly a week later, we see BJP distancing itself from Sharma's comments. Not just that, Nupur Sharma was suspended. That too just days after she spoke to Op India, telling them that she had the full support of the party leadership, including the Prime Minister. And since then, she has received rape and death threats, so the police have provided her security. And most recently, the party has come out with guidelines for its official spokespersons, mandating that they must use restrained language, stick to the agenda, not get excited or agitated, and not criticize any religion, its symbols, or religious figures. Nice. I hope the anchors also learn something from these guidelines. But they're not official spokespersons of the party now, are they? So that's all about what
fired
happened.
in the intro itself. Very nice. Already like this episode.
Can we just look at what happened and what made the ruling party get up and take stock of its actions?
Like you said, of course, there was outrage and protests followed in some parts of the country, but it was only after leaders of Mideast countries condemned the remarks did the government really get to work, or so to speak, because it started on Saturday when the Grand Mufti of Oman tweeted about the incident and called Sharma's comments insolent and obscene rudeness. And while the administration did not respond to this, the governments of Iran, Qatar, and Kuwait summoned Indian ambassadors to express their concern about these remarks. And shortly after this, supermarkets in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Bahrain removed Indian products or covered their shelves with plastic sheeting. At the time of recording, there are about 70 nations who have condemned the comments, with Qatar taking the hardball approach. They've demanded a public apology from India. And they also cancelled a dinner between the deputy emir who was supposed to host our vice president, Venkaiah Naidu. The official reason obviously is different. They say the emir has been exposed to coronavirus. On Sunday, consequently, the BJP issued a statement where they defended India's principles of secularism and said the Bharatiya Janata Party respects all religions. The BJP strongly denounces insults of any religious personalities of any religion, like you said, Vagda. And hours later, they suspended Sharma and also expelled their Delhi media chief, Naveen Jindal. And I admit to being slightly surprised by this. I honestly thought only a statement would come of this, if at all. But it makes sense, that India has jumped up as soon as powerful countries in the Middle East spoke out. This is because the Modi government has really taken some great pains to cultivate a diplomatic relationship with the Middle East, especially through its Look West policy. And to some extent, it has worked. I mean, we're receiving billions in trade currently and investments for infrastructure from the Gulf Cooperation Council and the Emirates and Saudi, not to mention all the oil and natural gas that we're getting. So it is clearly in our best interest to soothe over any ruffled Middle Eastern feathers. But perhaps the reason the government took action this time is because of the fact that the Mideast almost never speaks up when it is Indian Muslims who are harassed. This was, as I see it, protestations against an insult to Islam, which then better puts into perspective the statements about secularism and so-called fringe elements, whatever those may be. So what are fringe elements, Sara?
Yes, indeed. I have the same question. So I think it is a no-brainer that this unusual haste to offer a lengthy defense of Indian secularism, all while this government is time and again ignored the concerns of Indian Muslims. Like you said, first, there had been a Muslim organization out of Mumbai that did complain, but that was completely ignored. But suddenly everything was taken stock of when the Middle East got angry. And so time and again, the country has sidelined comments when Pakistan or committees of the US Congress have said, oh, I don't think you're treating your Muslims well and all of that. But suddenly they take notice now. So clearly it isn't about respecting the religion or respecting principles of secularism. But that is not why I take specific offense to this sudden sensitivity to secularism this time. The Indian embassies in their official statements said, and I quote, "The offensive tweets by individuals in India denigrating the religious personality do not in any manner reflect the views of the government of India. These are the views of fringe elements." Now, Ms. Sharma, for the uninitiated, began her BJP career back in 2008. She's not new to the party. When she was with the party's youth wing, she has been in the past also been the party's choice for the candidate, as the candidate to fight Arvind Kejriwal in Delhi. So it's not even some ikka dukka constituency. He was like, no, you will fight Kejriwal. She lost, but that's not the point. And most importantly, in 2020, she was appointed the national spokesperson of the party. So I don't know about you, but I sure as hell don't make the fringe the national spokesperson.
Yeah, nobody is fooled. I don't know what they think if they just say that it's a fringe element. Now everyone, official spokesperson or national spokesperson, fringe element. It does sound absurd, and I had the same reaction. But turns out it's not entirely absurd for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Oh.
To jog your memory, in 2014, the slogan for the party, for what it's worth, was "Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas." A development-heavy front that left nobody behind. And that actually had a lot of people forget the serious religious baggage that the party once carried. But as time went by, pretense of this slogan slowly started fading away. And by the time the last UP elections were around the corner in 2017, the party's winning formula in the state was simply about alienating the religious minorities. Yogi Adityanath, who was a candidate then and is currently the chief minister, in his campaigns has been unabashed about his anti-Muslim stance then and now. And after winning the elections in the state, the party decided to choose Yogi ji, who was a leader who was known for years for his hate speeches against Muslims, one who became infamous for justifying communal riots as the Hindu reaction, etc., as their chief minister, no less. Their best known Hindutva face was now the chief minister of the largest state, and largest constituent state, and he continues to be so because he won for a second time. And all this in turn, has very real consequences. It isn't just something that you notice, right? It changes what it means to be fringe. When Adityanath was a Lok Sabha member of the parliament, his love jihad agenda got termed the fringe. It is now a law in the state he loses over. It is the mainstream. And like I pointed out, the party was re-elected this time around. So it shows that this brand of politics does actually resonate with the majority. So I think what this eventually does is the line between the fringe and the mainstream Hindutva functionaries has only narrowed over the years. And this is just one example. Call me pessimistic, but this one statement and one removing a Nupur Sharma or Naveen Jindal doesn't mean very much when it comes to the larger politics at play.
But in this sentence, that saying that this view now resonates with the majority, it makes me very sad. Because it's been made to resonate, right? That you've built the narrative enough for it to resonate.
For sure.
And
there is a lack of choice.
there is a lack of choice. You can't not, it's like, it's a bad example, but you can't, if you want to watch a movie, you have to go watch Bhool Bhulaiya 2 at the theater because there is nothing else playing.
This sounds like a very personal nerve. Did you watch Bhool Bhulaiya 2 recently?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to watch a
How
movie at the
was
theater.
it?
It was not great. I didn't feel good
Okay.
after that.
Just wants to watch a movie. Just wants the chief minister. Now, what can
Yeah.
I do if it's Yogi Adityanath? What can I do if it's Bhool
This is the
Bhulaiya 2?
argument that people give for like, अरे अगर मोदी नहीं तो कौन? If not Modi, who? If not Bhool Bhulaiya, to who? Okay, on that note, we
This
come to
took
the
a
end of our first
wild
segment.
turn.
We'll be right back after a short break. You're listening to Press Decode on the IVM Podcasts Network.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcasts. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
Hello and welcome back to Press Decode on the IVM Podcasts Network. We're Team Splainer, and in today's Food for Thought, we're talking about electronics. They're so great, right? They improve our lives, they keep us lazy. It's just great, what they've done to us. But they're also super shitty in terms of repair because God forbid I break my MacBook's charger. Every time I see a small crack opening up in the wire, it's going to get taped like it's broken a bone. There's going to be a whole ass plaster there because you're not going to find someone to repair it, right? You'll have to go buy a new one and they're expensive. Tell me, are you that person too?
I'm gladly, proudly not one of you Apple users. So it's expensive,
No,
but not as
it doesn't
expensive and sad as y'all. No, I'm better off.
What about you, Prafula?
No, let me shake my head at this Apple hating person first. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
no, but I do get what you mean because I have been notorious about damaging my phones in the past, and it has cost me dearly. So
Yes.
it is very sad.
Okay,
Yeah,
what phone
and
do
this
you
is
use? This makes the story better and worse.
We are talking about Apple here. That is all I will say.
Constantly, very nice. Because even I'm notorious for breaking my phone, and each time my phone gets worse, like my parents are like, "Nope, now you will use just the worst brands. They will not last you more than 2 years because we know you'll break it before that." So anyway,
But that's the thing. Regardless of whether you buy Apple, it will not last you more than 2 years.
Mm.
That's the
also
thing.
true.
And it's a worldwide problem with electronics, like a few years of life, and they all end up contributing to this burgeoning problem of e-waste globally. Did you know that in 2019, we generated 53.6 million metric tons of e-waste? That's 7.3 kilos of e-waste per person in just
Wow.
1 year.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And yes, you can't fully solve the problem because technology develops like this, and it just, you have to, it develops so fast that you have to replace, but you can solve some of it if you just make repairs easier. And in that context, most recently, the state of New York passed what is said to be the world's first right to repair law for digital electronics. The Fair Repair Act requires digital electronic manufacturers to make repair tools, parts, and instructions for repair available to both consumers and independent shop owners so that consumers don't have to head to either buy a new product or go to manufacturers to have them repaired at some exorbitant cost. It basically recognizes the right to repair digital electronic goods, but it does make some exceptions. Like it leaves out home appliances and medical devices and agricultural equipment, but which is still all great. I think digital electronics is what we're talking about. We're talking about how our phones and our laptops and stuff. And sure, we can get to medical devices and home appliances in a bit, but considering how everyone has mobile phones and has to have them repaired, this is, I think, a great step. But I'm a little confused about whether this is the first law really, How is it that it's not there anywhere else? I'm not sure if it is the first. So let's look at that. And do we need a law really to say that, you have the right to repair? I mean, we've been repairing and stitching our buttons and all of this for a long time. I mean, I went to a convent school and I learned needlework in like second grade. Do you really need a law to say that, oh, you have the right to repair, But it's ridiculous if you think about it. But it's a little more nuanced considering exactly how the electronics industry works. So let's start with looking at what the right to repair movement is about.
So I think the movement, with its name itself, right to repair, it's very self-explanatory in this sense. It simply advocates that consumers have the right to be able to repair their own electronics without having to pay those insane charges to manufacturers or buy new products. But the movement actually isn't entirely new. It traces its roots back to the very dawn of the computer era in the 1950s. And the main demand since then is about getting companies to make spare parts, tools, and just make information on how to repair devices available publicly. So you don't have to resort to those shady looking YouTube videos, which all of us have done. I much like Prafula, notorious for breaking my phone, and sometimes I sit with my broken phone and maybe I can do it this time. I can't. But the whole point is to allow consumers in smaller repair shows to mend the products. And it has two big goals. One is obviously to increase the lifespan of the products. And the second is that it keeps these products away from landfills. And like Vagda mentioned, the amount of e-waste we produce is insanely high. So any dent to that amount is good, in my opinion. I mean, let's be real, even beyond all this, the charges at company authorized service centers are often so high that you do end up convincing yourself that buying a new product would be a better bet. And add to this the fact that companies like Apple in specific routinely put their older versions of their products on their obsolete list, which basically means that they stop offering hardware support to the products at their service center. So it's not even about software updates. It's just kuch nahi hamare paas. Have fun. And another caveat of this movement is like I said, the software bit is tackling something called planned obsolescence, which is basically the practice of building electronics in such a way that they last only a specific period of time and will absolutely need to be replaced. Manufacturers artificially reduce the lifespan of the product so as to allow more products to fly off the shelves. I can't be the only one who looks at a failing electronic product and immediately in my mind I go, okay, how old is it? Is it worth taking it to a repair store? Where am I going to get a better bet out of this? It's pretty sad that that's what it comes to. The device is working perfectly fine before any tiny damage, but then you're immediately thinking if it's even worth it. After about 5 years on a laptop, you just know any repair is simply about luck. It's not worth the amount that you will spend. And clearly now this movement is great for the consumer, but it's bad news for tech companies. And the big tech bros of the world, including Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, have been fighting the right to repair by very smartly arguing actually, that opening up their IP to third-party repair services or amateur repairers could lead to exploitation and impact the safety and security of their devices. Especially in a time and age where you do have a lot of malwares and stuff. So this has constantly been a tussle between the consumer and the manufacturer. But like Vagda pointed out, New York's law is being touted as the first of its kind. But is that really the case? Where do we actually stand on the right to repair around the world? Because I've definitely heard it here and there for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, so it kind of is and isn't, especially in the US, because in the US, automobiles are governed by their own right to repair rules since about 2012. And this right to repair law that is being talked about right now in New York is only for consumer electronics and not for agricultural or medical or public safety equipment. And a lot of big tech companies, as well as medical device providers, video game companies, electronics trade organizations have been lobbying for years to basically kill the right to repair because these companies say first that they fear for their businesses. And then they argue that, like Sara said, this would violate their intellectual property. And the third argument is that independent repairers could be harmed when they're attempting to repair a product or by using it after a faulty repair. This is about concerns where consumers or repair shops without training use or replace things like a lithium ion battery or something. But there are several countries that do have some sort of legislation around right to repair right now. Those include the UK, EU, and Australia. And the EU is kind of goes on a different route from the US, because in the US they're talking consumer electronics. In the EU, they last year announced a system for self repairs that apply to household appliances. And this is to be, they said, this is so that these appliances will be more sustainable and recyclable, and you can use them and repair them for up to about 10 years. So these include dishwashers, washing machines, refrigeration appliances, television, and other electronic displays. But they so far don't include consumer electronics. So you can't really repair your smartphones or tablets or computers. France is kind of a different story because they have a right to repair act. But the rules require companies like Apple to list their products from least to most repairable on their websites. And the compliance from each of these companies, say Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Apple, it's all been very begrudging because these companies have listed scores measuring just how repairable each device is, but they've not given you steps on how to repair the device or replace parts or where to get the parts from. It's again in the UK, they've since last year required manufacturers to make spare parts, and this has to be available to both consumers and third-party companies. And they want to extend the life cycle of your devices again up to 10 years. The government also has looked at modified energy outputs and efficiency standards so that they can cut bills and emissions. Again, you have all your dishwashers, refrigeration appliances, and they also include light sources, retail refrigerators, and electric motors that you can now repair on your own or take to an independent shop.
But I don't think these fall as much in, the kind of stuff that we think about, right? Because generally, like things like these have, first of all, they have like great standards that you can actually measure quality with, and they also last longer because you're not going around picking up a bulb or your TV or it's just there. Like it doesn't actually get spoiled that easily. Whereas you using your phone all the time, it's falling in the loo, it's falling on your on the road.
Is there a story here, Vagda?
On the road, yes, not in the loo, but I've heard other people's stories of it falling in the loo. But that's the point. Like, I think like phones and tablets, that planned obsolescence, I think, works more in digital electronics than it does for like home appliances and stuff.
It definitely does, I think, but that's the reason I brought it up, right? Because even if there isn't such an outright planned obsolescence of these appliances, people will constantly look for upgrades because, like I mentioned, retail refrigerators or electric motors, right? These things, as the whatever industry they're in, they're using it more and more. They're going to either need an upgrade or they're going to have to repair it every so often, right? And that has to be costly too, right? Which is the only thing, because I'm pretty sure as much as our smartphones are going into e-waste landfills, these things, or at least their parts, are going into landfills like this. And it's interesting though that Australia has, they've kind of have a consumer law about this. But the reason I bring up Australia is they also have like their regulations, and you can only find parts up till a certain point in time. But they have something called repair cafes, where people just gather with everything from clothes to appliances and bikes, and people with other people with expertise will mend them for you.
Oh, so that's cool.
That is super cool, right? They've worked around it, and apparently it happens in like cafes and garages, and this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
That's really cool.
But coming to that is what I was just going to bring up, Jugaad in Australia and Jugaad in India. And I was thinking about so we don't have repair manuals in India either because, again, monopoly. And this apparently infringes on customers' right to choose, and this right is recognized as by the Consumer Protection Act of 2019, and jurisprudence has also partially acknowledged the right to repair. But this is what I was thinking about. It's such a big business in India to repair, and it's because it's not necessarily legal and we don't have laws about it. So it's strange that even with such a big business and how much impact a law like this will have, there isn't momentum in India about repair law. Nobody's really rallying around something like this. And so I try to read up about what people are saying about it. The most experts have said yet is that maybe we do need a law, and that both the make in India and the output of our e-waste, because apparently we are the third largest, what do you call this? Basically, we're the third largest country who has a lot of produce e-waste. Yes, words. How to English? I was going to say how to e-waste. See, just podcasting is wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah. So no, but they say, if you're making products in India under the Make in India brand, you should be able to have shops that repair stuff in India. And and if we're producing so much e-waste, there has to be ways, of making our devices more sustainable. And they say experts think this may just push us in the right direction, but I don't see, or I haven't personally seen anything about it yet. So I guess only time will tell.
Yeah. And anyway, the law that we have right now on any kind of e-waste is like that extended producer responsibility, where the manufacturer has responsibility to collect e-waste and like deal with it, rather than it ending up in these landfills or in the illegal repair or parts industry, which has problems of its own. All right. On that note, we come to the end of this segment. We'll be right back after a short break. You're listening to Press Decode on the IVM Podcasts Network.
Hello, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcasts Network. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita talk about how the podcast industry hit the 1 billion mark. On Big Talk About Tiny Humans, Devi Shobha and Meghna address video game addiction in children. On The Longest Constitution, Priya explores the limits of free speech. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss various aspects of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF. And on Football Twaddle, Saru, Baru and Yash analyze Real Madrid's UCL win. We've got some exciting news for you. IVM Podcasts has just launched its merch, and our first line is out now. Head to the IVM Podcasts website and click on the shop tab to check out our first collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platform you're listening on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week: SBI Life Insurance, Jupiter, a digital banking app, Capgemini, get the future you want, Intel V Pro, built for business, and Intel, future banao wonderful with Intel-powered laptops.
Welcome back to Press Decode on the IVM Podcasts Network. It's time for our final segment this week, Roast or Toast. Let's begin.
This is the second episode in a row that I have not found something funny for, but I do have something bizarre. So, a little background: the American West, especially California and those parts, have been suffering through a mega drought for quite a bit now. And water levels at Lake Mead, which is a reservoir of the Hoover Dam, are so low that it could reach a dead pool, where the dam will no longer be able to produce hydropower. But that isn't the only dead pool, I'm so sorry, forgive me, that the lake is becoming. The water levels are so low that the bodies of murder victims from decades ago are resurfacing.
What the?
Yeah.
What?
So these are all, they've been on the floor of the lake for quite some time now, for decades. And because water levels are so low, they've resurfaced, and most of them show clear signs of a mob killing. So Las Vegas police, if I recall correctly, has been investigating the deaths and confirmed approximate timeline, saying, okay, probably a couple of decades when, mobs ran amok in Las Vegas. So
What?
yeah,
Do you have an idea of like what decade this was?
from what I remember, probably like the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
And, each of them, because of so much, palpable shock, is why I'm not going into more detail about how some people were found. But the bottom line is, I guess it is in the best interest of both.
Really?
I made 2 puns so far, but please stay tuned. It is in the best interest of both law-abiding citizens and other criminals to be environmentally friendly. I will end at that. Goodbye.
That's a good enough reason to be environmentally friendly.
Your
I give
murder
that to
victims will
you,
never
but
come up.
I am, as they say, shooketh.
Shooketh.
Oh my god! I did not see this coming. Oh, Jesus! Now my item's like stupid.
But that's why it's Fave.
Okay. Anyway, Vagda, do you want to go first? Why don't
Okay, I can go first. Mine
Yes,
is
please.
equally stupid. Okay. So there is this small town called Yarra. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's in the suburbs of Melbourne. And they wanted a traffic slower. And you know what a traffic slower is? It's basically like get people to be calm and like not be very, not speed basically on the roads. I don't know how this works, but they wanted a traffic slower. So they paid $22,000 for an artwork titled Fallen Fruit and placed it on the street. Now,
Nice.
this huge 1.8 meter tall anthropomorphic fiberglass banana. This is a banana.
Of course.
They paid. So this banana, anthropomorphic banana made of fiberglass, has a skull face.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
It was going to slow traffic down. How? I don't know. Don't ask me this. But
I mean, visible shock.
I'm not kidding. Yeah, I'm not kidding, because they paid this $22,000, this amount, from a $100,000 grant from the Transport Accident Commission.
What?
Nice.
So it was
Very nice.
placed there to prevent accidents. I don't know, man. It's too funny.
It sounds like it's going to create more accidents.
It's exactly. And everyone hated it very much. Obviously. What, Sara?
No, I'm only noticing a nice pattern with art and just ridiculousness. I think it was like one of our
And
first few
bananas.
episodes. Exactly.
Oh, you guys did the
the
taped
damn
banana.
That was
Yes.
precisely. Throwback to, I don't know, one of our first like 10 episodes or something, but taped banana, skull, banana, traffic slower thingy. Nice.
Yeah, so you hate it, we hate it. Everybody in Yarra hated it so much that someone tried to decapitate it. And now
Nice.
the local body has replaced it with a giant yellow flower pot for the time being.
How is that going to
I mean,
slow
but-
traffic?
That's not going
If
to
it
slow
was
traffic, but it's not going to
decapitated.
cause accidents.
If it was decapitated, do you think it's going to be found in the bottom of the lake that Prafula was talking about?
My God, this is supposed to be a fave item.
I can't help myself sometimes. I'm sorry.
Let me bring you back to the rest of the story, which is that now comedian John Oliver has offered to buy the sculpture and take it off of the municipality's hands for $10 and exchange this banana sculpture for a same size sculpture of an alligator raising a middle finger.
Oh, this gets better and better.
Yes, it would be so interesting to have an alligator there with its raised middle finger. And now Oliver has also offered to donate $10,000 to Food Bank in Melbourne and $5,000 to the Australia Zoo as a part of the deal. But the mayor of Yarra has not yet decided whether they want to part with the sculpture. I am really hoping that they take Oliver up on his offer.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
I'm appalled because what sort of attachment do they have to this banana that they haven't decided yet?
There's a very interesting other quote from John Oliver, who basically said what makes the banana so special and so very Australian. He said, it's basically the Kate Blanchett of banana sculptures. In that it is a hauntingly pale Australian creature with a very striking bone structure.
I love this story.
Wow.
This is amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I also have a fave item. Turns out 1 week of a break of falling sick just means I'm a happier person. But there is the most bizarre plagiarism suit against Mariah Carey that we recently carried. The pop diva has essentially been sued by a random man from Louisiana who claims that he wrote and released a song with the same title as All I Want for Christmas Is You. No biggie, right? Like random plagiarism lawsuits directed at famous people is like all too common. But here's where things get interesting. The entire lawsuit bases its claims on the fact that the two songs share the same title. The dude does not state that the two songs sound alike or anything. There's no lyrical similarity, tonal similarity, nothing. He instead only strongly believes that as the writer of a song called All I Want for Christmas Is You, that predated the hit single, he has the copyright on subsequent works bearing the title. Yep. See, it is my favorite item for only one reason. I want nothing more in life than the audacity of this man. It would
Truly
take me places. Like, I love it. I'm here for it.
I am totally here for that also. But you know what? What makes the audacity even better? Apparently, if we would have just done that much research, there are other songs called All I Want for Christmas Is You that predate his song also.
But do they have the audacity of this man?
No, they don't.
Point of the matter. Audacity of this man.
And that was our show this week. So thank you so much for joining us on Press Decode. You can catch us every Thursday on the IVM Podcasts Network. And guys, please remember, don't let the news give you the blues.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
A wise man once said, traveling, it makes you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller.
Well, listen to such travel stories and experiences exploring India on the Musafir Stories with us, Saif and Faiza.
Catch us on the IVM website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.